Welcome to Drive Time. This is UCLA Anderson. My name is Dylan Stafford. I'm an assistant dean here. This is episode number 99. First time in our new studio space. Have a really exciting guest. I think all my guests are really exciting. Rondale Davis is a graduate from the class of 2023. I have been working with him over a year now, I guess, maybe 18 months. And he's an entrepreneur. He graduated a year ago. He has a company called Grad Pad, and you're going to hear what Grad Pad is and what he's aiming at next. Then you're going to hear how Anderson and the entrepreneurial resources of Anderson helped him get to this point. And then we'll end up with some fun backstory about how this gentleman who grew up in Boston made it all the way to the West Coast and is launching his own company. So Rondale, thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and just to make it, just to keep the performance art, the high wire as high as we can. We set this up 22 hours ago.
Yep.
So we're definitely just in time. So thank you for being courageous and conscientious and being somebody that I think really merits other alumni getting to know. I really have enjoyed getting to know you this last year and a half, and watching you launch this thing called Grad Pad. So why don't we start there? Like, let's talk about what is Grad Pad?
Okay, so I'll start with our vision. The vision for Grad Pad is to be the global #1 alumni engagement platform and event support, where we want to have over 10 million users worldwide, and we want to have over 1,000 integrations across institutions. Now, GradPad is an edtech platform that builds community for disengaged alumni ecosystems. The biggest problems or the biggest reasons behind the disengaged alumni ecosystems are a lack of community, outdated technology, and a lack of a centralized platform. So the solution we've created is a community-oriented platform that builds community digitally and also supports in-person events. We've seen success through launching an MVP last summer with UCLA Anderson as our first onboarding customer. We were able to acquire 200 users that engaged in 300 unique ways over about a 7-day period. And we've got partnerships upcoming with UMass Amherst and Boston Latin School starting this spring. And I got to shout out Dylan, who actually gave us our customer testimonial, which was that you shared that we use GradPad to build bridges and overcome silos, which is key to a top tier MBA program.
Yeah, well, you a fully employed MSBA, MFE, so all 5 programs plus PhD students, all class years invited, plus current students, plus welcome incoming students. So it is a opportunity for the excited alumni to not only come back to campus, but come back to campus and connect with a current student or even a new admit. And when you pitched GradPad to me, I was so excited about the possibility. It's fun to come to a physical event. Maybe you meet the right person standing in line getting a drink or a refreshment. But what if you could, quote unquote, meet the right person digitally in advance? What if you could then follow up with that right person digitally after the event? You work for Sony, I work for Sony. You're class of 2008, I'm class of 2018. We don't even know each other exists. And then our alumni network brings us back together. So we find each other within a common company. That's beautiful. But then what if there's a new admit who wants to work at Sony or already works at Sony, and just how to build those bridges in a moment in history where everybody's super busy, right? And nobody has time to mess around with a non-true connection. So you were able to use GradPad with Palooza for people to have a trusted ecosystem of engagement to find each other.
Exactly.
And we were able to be a beta, a beta test for you. We talked earlier about like kind of a 1-minute pitch. Do you want to, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, so I shared most of that with what I discussed around the problem and solution, but I can share a bit more.
Yeah, because tell people who are not entrepreneurs yet, what's a 1-minute pitch and why have your advisors because they've been testing you lately. Like,
Right.
Rondale, keep practicing that. Like,
Yeah.
kind of explain the world of why does an entrepreneur need a 1-minute pitch? And
Oh, okay. Got you. So, 1 minute pitch. I often heard, have your 1 minute pitch ready, have your elevator pitch ready. Those terms are synonymous. I've been preparing a lot for a 5 minute pitch. And also a 3 minute pitch. But these are different ways to present your company or business ideas in different settings. A 1 minute pitch is critical because as you network, you may find yourself in circumstances like at a dinner table or a lunch event, and someone may ask around the table, like, what are you guys, like when no one knows each other, what are you guys here for? What do you do? And you don't want to spend, 5 minutes at that point explaining your company. You need a succinct, like really one-liner if you can, but as in more of an elevator setting or a setting where you may have a little more intimacy, you can share a 1 minute pitch to really highlight the problem, the solution, and highlight any traction you have. I'd also share that I'm actually fortunate enough to have won a 1 minute pitch competition recently.
oh, really?
Hosted by Act House and Black Ambition at Sip and Sonder in Inglewood. And shout out the Anderson Network, MBA from class of 2022. Ashley Johnson actually won that same pitch event the prior year. And so I was following in her footsteps. She was the first person I called when I got into UCLA Anderson. I was actually living in New York at the time. And I was like, well, am I really going to move across the country? How is it? And so seeing other entrepreneurs in this ecosystem has been tremendously beneficial for me. But that's how I would describe the importance of the 1 minute pitch. When it comes to like 5 minute pitches, those are better for like more of a formal presentation, I would say.
Yeah. Excellent. Because there's a language to entrepreneurship that I think where people are, so many people, I watch Shark Tank. I'm going to go to UCLA Anderson, right? Like, okay, that's great. We're happy that Shark Tank brought you to us, but there's way more to it, right? It's not just I built a better mousetrap and people are going to discover me. There's a language of entrepreneurship that includes, problem, solution, me as the best solution to said problem, helping an investor see where you are, where you want to be, what's next, where they can engage. And so just in terms of raising money, you've raised what, 50,000 in friends and family?
Yep.
And tell us about that part of it. People are always interested.
Yeah.
Where does the money come in?
Yeah. So that was certainly a journey. Fundraising, entrepreneurs often describe that as a full-time job in and of itself, like separate from running the business, but it has to be done along the same, you still have to balance both. And so I went through the process, and I'm coming from a family background where I can't just get the 50,000 from, my parents or grandparents. So I really had to maximize funds and pull sources from different areas of my network. That process, required me to, first of all, I learned a lot and grew a lot in that process because it's so relationship oriented. You really have to, I do a good job of keeping in touch with people. And so the friends and family that I've kept in touch with, who I know have an entrepreneurial spirit, or that I know just have supported me in the past, I was quick to reach out to them and let them know what I'm working on and that I'd like to kind of hear their feedback and share more. And so what I did in that process is I probably met with, let's say 25 to 30 people. And I went through my pitch deck, and that also helped me kind of sharpen my skills of pitching and presenting my business idea. I ended up getting investment from about 12 different individuals overall, including certain married couples, counting them separately. And I also got some institutional funding in there, like $5,000 from the Anderson Accelerator, $5,000 recently from the pitch competition. And so that's kind of how I was able to kind of pile together the resources, but it really highlighted the importance of having a good relationship with your network, and being able to follow up, follow your word, schedule, be on time when you schedule your meetings. Even if you have like 60 meetings in a week, it took a lot of discipline and vulnerability in that process. Yeah.
Well, and what I would love to highlight, because I like to, the people I select to interview have character traits that I would love to emphasize. And your conscientiousness, I unfortunately don't have a lot of money to give you, but I've given you a lot of time. And it's worth it for me to give you time because you are so professional and consistent in how you communicate it. We've been unofficially working together for 18 months and we've achieved some good stuff, right? You know, it really did make the Palooza event a better event. And the pre-Palooza, the entrepreneurial spotlight that we did with you and David and Emily in Corn Hall last summer, that was all created from imagination, which is what entrepreneurs are always doing. And I love to quote Professor Foster, who used to run the Global Access Program within FEMBA, who had been a president at Xerox before he came and ran Gap for a couple decades. But he said, in a career, you're always asking these same questions over and over and over. Who are you? Where are you going? And can I trust you? And you do business with people you trust. You got to avoid the snakes in the grass. And conscientiousness is one of those ways that we build trust with people. And your conscientiousness has always, you've just never not held up your side of the kind of implicit agreement of, okay, we're going to meet, we're going to talk, let's keep creating, and listening to you, talking to your developers and coming back, and we're almost there, we're not quite there, oh, that's it, and then getting to go live. That was so great. Well, okay, so first third of this conversation was welcome to Rondale, welcome to GradPad. The middle third is let's help people learn some of the specific vocabulary of entrepreneurship that's unique to Anderson. So we're going to throw some buzzwords at you. This is a subject matter expert. Rondale has maximized several things. A program, the business creation program, a center of resource, the venture accelerator, some of the great faculty expertise. We're going to shout out Jeff Shinerock, and a couple different programs, the 2-month and the 5-month summer program and the accelerator. So we're going to circle back to that. But what you're going to learn from Rondale in this middle section is, especially for those of you who are in the program or new entering, if entrepreneurship is your lane, you're going to need to roll up your sleeves because it's here, but you have to get hungry for it. You're even going to share with, Rondale's going to share with us a story where he was almost like not invited to the party because he kind of jumped in the boat late, but he did jump in the boat again because he was conscientious and he was figuring out what he wanted to aim at, and that was entrepreneurship. So kind of back to you. Tell us about the world of entrepreneurship, the ecosystem here, and the parts that you took advantage of.
Yeah, so I'll start by sharing that my journey to Anderson, I actually came here to focus on sports management. So my goal was to come in and then pivot into a career of sports management and sports marketing. And I knew UCLA had a great program for that. And along the way, as I really began to understand the different opportunities that were available, the different areas of focus that the students themselves had, I started to see entrepreneurship as a really attractive lane. There were courses where guest speakers would come who had graduated 1, 2, 3 years prior, that had launched successful startups, and they had successfully secured like funding from VCs or venture capital firms. And so that's what really sparked my interest in the journey towards entrepreneurship.
So you did not walk in the door, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Yep,
you
exactly.
walked in the door, I'm going to focus on sports management. Anderson's got a lot of resources. Okay,
Exactly.
So notice, right? Like, are you limber enough to pivot?
Yeah.
Right? Because it takes guts to pivot. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, and then to your point, you mentioned kind of being late to the party. Like a lot of students come in from day one, with a business idea that they want to vet and push through that business creation program that was referenced earlier, or they've been running their company successfully for 5 or 10 years, but maybe they don't have the margins they want to see, or they're not making the level of profitability they think they could achieve, so they want to come and like sharpen their business skills. And so in that sense, you have a lot of people coming in. You actually have to form teams, a team of like 5 or so students to go through the business creation program. So you really have to recruit a team. So as you can imagine, if everyone's coming in year 1, they're all scouting the best talent. And so coming into year 2, which is when I came up with my business idea and decided to move in that direction, I then had a smaller pool of talent to choose from. And so this is where Jeff Shinerock came in to play, where he helped a lot. He kept telling me during the summer, because there was I want to say I started speaking with him in May. So May through July was a process where I met with him almost every other week. And I was trying to form a team, recruiting as much as I could, reaching out. And it was getting to the point where I wasn't like closing the gap and filling those spots with team members. And he was even telling me like, look, you actually have to take some form of a master's thesis to graduate. So like, if you can't scout a team, that means you're likely not going to get through this type of thesis. So like, I would strongly consider these other lanes and avenues. But I had my mindset, I was like, no, there's no way I'm turning down this opportunity. Once I bought in, I'm like, I'm all in. So I'm going to, give it everything I've got. And fortunately, I was able to scout a team. One of the team members was actually a FEMBA student, which isn't the normal circumstance. Usually if you're FEMBA, which is, fully employed MBA versus full-time MBA, you have your separate teams. And so I had one team member who joined from FEMBA, and the rest of my team was full-time MBAs. And once we got together, we did the 6-month thesis, which required a lot of, building pitch decks, building financial models, having, 5-year projections. We entered into some of the competitions that are held on campus, like the NAP competition that's held annually. We entered into the Milken Case competition, that is also an annual competition. That one's hosted by the law school. And so I just went through the journey of really kind of trying to build this business, but also like get as much exposure to the other schools that might have had competitions, or the other kind of ways to look at my business through a different lens, if that makes sense. And so I pushed my team a lot. We had a lot of long hours. I started speaking with you during the BCP program around April. And so like January to June, I did the winter quarter and spring quarter BCP. Most people like to do fall and winter, so that by spring, when you're graduating, you don't have to worry about, a master's thesis and this grand final presentation. But we started meeting, and at that point I had just had mock-ups and a vision. And my advisor through BCP, they also give you a business advisor who has some kind of experience in a similar industry. So my business advisor, Jason Owen, had started a tech company in the past, and he had a successful exit. And so as I'm starting to have conversations with you, I'm telling Jason like, hey, UCLA Anderson is willing to give this a shot. I showed him the mock-ups and they believe in the vision. And he was like, well, how much time do you have? And it was April, and then we needed an MVP or some kind of product by July. So April, May, June, July, we had 4 months. I have no technical background. I'm actually a CPA. And so I had to figure this out. He told me like, that's not enough time. I wouldn't do it. Again, that courageousness, it was like, I knew like, this is all I'm working on. I'm going to figure it out. And it actually wasn't until May when I got my team of developers through using resources at UCLA Anderson. Shout out the Accelerator, because they had a team of developers that have built products for companies like Mercedes-Benz and Citibank. And that company really wanted to form a long-term relationship with UCLA Anderson. So I get my team of developers like May 1st, literally. I was actually going crazy that day, and I was glad I finally landed them. But now we've got, May, June, and I wanted to launch mid-July so that people could pre-network, as you mentioned earlier. And so now I had 2.5 months, and that process was just, the time difference was crazy because there's almost like a 12-hour time difference. So just a lot of late night calls, early morning calls. If I had to take calls at 5 a.m. and be on the call for 2-3 hours during that home stretch, I did it. If it was a 12 midnight call that had to be 2-3 hours, I did it. I did whatever I needed to do to launch that MVP. And fortunately was able to come out with a product and have a successful launch.
Yeah, those were some interesting months last year, and Palooza itself was growing, and life offers us constraints.
Yep.
But it's how to have the vision, how to continue to articulate the vision, and also dance.
Yeah.
And we were dancing.
Yeah.
So just to underline a couple. So the BCP, the Business Creation Program, is one of the capstone choices that is available here, and it is the one for people who are entrepreneurs and want to be entrepreneurs. So just to articulate the vocabulary. And then Accelerator, short for Venture Accelerator.
Yep.
Tell people about the Venture Accelerator, both physically and programmatically, because it's an important new feather in the cap of Anderson. It's what, 4 or 5 years old?
Yeah.
Kind of came on right before COVID, but tell people about what it means to participate in the Venture Accelerator.
Yeah, so physically, the Venture Accelerator is actually located in what used to be the basement of the library. And it's interesting because they always bring librarians down like the first week of the Accelerator program to tell us like the space you're in now used to just be filled with books, right? This wasn't an actual place where you could do work or access if you weren't associated with the library. And so now it's pretty much a workspace, like modern office workspace, open desk kind of environment with, different breakout rooms where you can go for your team meetings. You can take calls down there. And it's a quiet place that's kind of nestled secretly in the basement of the Anderson Library. You also get 24/7 access once when you're a part of BCP or when you are accepted into the Accelerator program. So let's double check that the 24/7 applies to BCP. I'm pretty sure it does. So please don't get mad at me, Accelerator team, if that's incorrect. But I mean, I clearly took advantage and was accessing it as much as needed, late nights, early mornings. But in terms of the actual program, they run 2 accelerator cohorts per year. There's a 2-month summer accelerator, and there's a 5-month winter accelerator, which I'm currently a part of. And so I had seen that a lot of the students who had came in with their entrepreneurial endeavors, I saw them kind of going through the process of going through the accelerator. Like Kevin White, he's actually my class year, class of 2023, but he came in with his business idea and he decided to do the summer accelerator between first and second year. Okay. And so I was actually a part of that accelerator, but that was because I was a part of some sports betting company. I kind of just tagged along and went through the series without my own business idea, but I got exposure to the different guest speakers they bring in on different topics, launching an MVP or minimal viable product, kind of finding product market fit, which is kind of finding the best area to launch your business and where you can tell it will really succeed. Considering like legal terms and considerations such as like accounting, financial models, like all these topics are discussed on a weekly basis. And they bring in, again, the guest speakers, in some cases, even certain professors associated with UCLA. Now, the 5-month winter accelerator is just a grander version of that summer accelerator.
Are these for credit?
Yeah, so they're not for credit. So this is completely separate.
So this is
from
beyond
Anderson.
BCP. So yep. BCP, the business creation program, that's your capstone
Exactly.
for credit advancing to candidacy.
Exactly.
This is additional overlay,
yep,
not for credit.
Right. So
okay.
You have to apply, you have to get accepted. And so it's not only Anderson students that are in the accelerator
right.
either. There's also sometimes there's current students, sometimes there's alums. There are students from other schools. There's PhD students from UCLA that'll join the accelerator, or they're associated with other parts of UCLA. There are people that aren't even affiliated with UCLA at all that are just LA entrepreneurs. And so you get exposure to these different peoples. And then the Winter Accelerator, one of the differentiators there is that they actually partner with the UCLA undergrad. And so they'll help supply you with an intern or multiple interns depending on your business needs. So I've been really fortunate to have an intern who's a junior at UCLA, cognitive science major, helped me make some really great flyers for the events I have coming up. And she's also helped me with my customer outreach, and she'll be helping with competitive analysis. Because knowing who your competitors are and what they're doing kind of shows that you understand the full picture of your business. And so those have been some of the great benefits of the Accelerator program.
Yeah. And, you start to feel like a real grown-up when you start to have an intern and,
yeah.
Oh my God, I'm now, even while you yourself are still striving,
yeah.
You've got one hand pulling up, but you also have a hand. Our former dean, Judy Olean, always said, we're not a sharp elbow, pointy knee school. Mm-hmm. We are a shared success. That's part of our DNA. And just as we're pulling ourselves up, we're also pulling people up with us.
Yeah.
And what do doctors say? What is it? See one, do one, teach one.
Yep.
In entrepreneurship, for those of you who want to be entrepreneurs, it's not a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that happens for some people, but mostly this is a lifestyle. This is what I see around here, that the people that I love to follow, all these alumni I've been following for years, they did one thing and another thing and a third thing, and you're mastering all of those interdependent conversations, like you called it, accounting and there's financing and there's the product and the minimum viable and where are we and scaling and scoping and what are we aiming at and how do we get there and how do people support us. And then you do it, and you do it a second time, you do it a third time, and it's a really cool way to live if you have a risk tolerance.
Yeah,
that's really high.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so all right. So we've talked about GradPad,
yep,
where it's aiming, what's next. We've talked about Anderson, BCP, the Accelerator, the 2-month summer program, the 5-month Accelerator.
Yep.
So that's kind of gotten you to this story, but you're from Boston.
Yeah.
So let's let people know a little bit about you. How you mentioned it earlier with the person whose name I've lost, but how did you think to come across country? And tell us a little bit about your Massachusetts upbringing, and tell us about you that way.
Yeah, for sure. And so my upbringing certainly played a role in the pursuit I have and the passion I have for GradPad. So I was raised in Boston. I was actually raised by my grandmother, right? And so I had very humble beginnings. She only made about $18K a year. And the crazy thing about it, Boston Lions School, I take so much pride in that institution, all the institutions I graduated from, but they were established 1635. Oldest high school in America, pretty much a pipeline school for Harvard. They were actually created before Harvard. And so a lot of the
your high school, let's just underline, your high school is older than Harvard?
Yeah.
Boston Latin School.
Yeah. So that's the caliber. A lot of the forefathers of this nation attended Boston Latin School. So, having access to, premier education was a huge benefit. And my grandmother was actually a lunch lady there my first year of 7th grade, which was crazy. Then she moved on. So it's just I don't know, the journey through BLS and through Boston has been incredible. But going back to my upbringing, because I didn't have all the resources at home, I felt as though I had to lean on my community to really get the resources needed. And I realized over time that actually built a very strong skill set of networking and community engagement. And so that's what's really kind of put me on this journey. Even coming to Anderson, my first year, I had 4 social leadership roles.
Wow.
And so I've always been someone that can, looks to bring people together, looks to make sure that every person that I'm engaging with, is included, is, considered, et cetera. And so that's what is really at the heart of GradPad. And so kind of going through that journey in Boston, I grew up thinking, I'm a first generation college student. So I'm what do I want to do to be successful? I see on TV, businessmen, how do I get like these guys? And that's what led me down the path of accounting. So I go through Boston Lions School, I go through my upbringing, and then I end up at UMass Amherst. And then again, I actually had no idea what I was going to pursue my freshman year. I just knew I wanted to have strong grades. And actually going back to BLS, because I was a first gen college student, I didn't have my grandmother. She always encouraged me to get good grades, but it wasn't like we checked in all the time. And so I actually I remember to this day, like it was yesterday, the first time I saw my GPA at BLS, it was a 1.8 going into my junior year. And I was like, this isn't what I came here for, right? I kind of got lost in the sauce of trying to be a class clown along the way and just not being as focused as I needed to be. And so what that led to was me being I know I got to go to college. I know I need to be successful. So I brought it up to a 2.4. It's not amazing, but that was a 3 let's say 5 the last 2 years. And that momentum continued through undergrad. So I get to undergrad at UMass Amherst. I have no idea what I'm going to major in. I just know my grades need to be strong. And so I start, through the first 2 years, I started taking courses. Of course, I'm naturally attracted to the business school, Eisenberg. And I go to that, I ended up kind of speaking with people and trying to determine the best way to enter the school, because it is one of the premier schools at UMass. And so there are very strong grade requirements, GPA requirements. You have to take certain courses. So I kind of got an understanding of the law of the land and, you know, hit all those metrics. And that meant, you know, getting tutoring sometimes when I needed, which I'd never done in the past, like doing whatever I needed to do to achieve that goal. Got into Eisenberg. From there, I took accounting as a major, set my mind that I was gonna, you know, be a CPA. So I worked in public accounting pretty much my entire career before coming to Anderson for about 7 years. And I made a pivot. I actually moved to New York. So for the 4 years before Anderson, I was in New York. And that's where I got a lot of exposure to other careers. I had a friend of mine in New York who was working for the NFL at the time, and now he works at MLS. Last time I checked, he was director of player personnel. But he would bring me to, we had other friends in the sports industry, so we'd go to like a Knicks game and we'd be in the box suite and be like, oh yeah, we just got these because our boy works with this team or XYZ. And I'm like, well, these are the kind of perks I want. I don't want the perks of, you know, working 12 hours to get a $25, you know, dinner expensed, which, you know, I learned a lot of great hard work through accounting, but the glamour, maybe not the glamour, but definitely the perks and the passion and the favoritism I have for sports is what drew me towards sports. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I decided to pursue my MBA. I had considered getting my MBA years prior, but I really wanted to master that skill of accounting before pivoting. And then I went through MLT, Management Leadership for Tomorrow. So they have an MBA prep program, and it's for minority candidates, U.S. minority candidates that are applying to the top 25 business schools. So that's beneficial because one, it puts you in a network of other people that are also studying for the GMAT and going through that process. You have a community of people that are going to continue to push you as you go. They partner you with coaches, so you really see the benefit of like working with coaches. And you'll notice they have a tremendously extensive network. John Legend is actually an MLT alum. So they've got, all kinds of just great, John Rice, the CEO, his daughter actually plays at UCLA.
How cool. And
so I found that out recently. So, but now because of that process, my network includes people at, you know, all the top programs, the HBSs, Harvard Business Schools, the Whartons, you know, the Stanfords. And where do people go after they graduate business school? LA, right? Like, where else would you want to be? And so that's only strengthened my network and led to even more opportunities. And so you can kind of see along the way how I've just always kind of built community, tried to maximize my network. And that's what's really been at the core of GradPad.
Wow. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, we are lucky that, you know, you chose us, and thank you for choosing us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's so. Okay, let's do stereotype confirmed, stereotype disabused. So, you know, like I always think, you know, in Boston everybody's got 2 PhDs, right? In LA everybody's got 2 Porsches or whatever. Yeah. Very different mindset. So when you were making the big cross country jump, you know, what was something about LA that you expected that was proven true, and what was something that was surprisingly proven not true?
Interesting. Okay. So I had met a few people from LA during my experience in public accounting, like when you have these like national training conventions and stuff. And like, I always thought the people from LA were just cool. Like I just always, they were just,
we are cool. Yeah,
they were just, you know, they weren't ever uptight. They were never like really rude. They were just mellow and chill. So I just thought, you know, everyone was going to be just super mellow and friendly, which they are, but it kind of led to this, what I've discovered to be a flaky culture that's here. And so people are, what I've found is there's a quote that's like, in LA, people are nice, but they're not kind, versus like places like the South where they'll say that people are kind, but they may not necessarily be nice. And so, you know, that's one thing. I
never heard that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. So that was something that I didn't expect. And then you asked for something that I thought was true that I found to be true. I mean, when I think of Anderson, I mean, let's see. I think that the people get spoiled by the weather here, right? Oh, yeah. And so I kind of predicted that coming in. But those feelings were only, strengthened after being here. Even the first week here, I saw people wearing sweaters in like 60-degree weather. And I was like, wait, it's summertime. What's going on? Like, why would you ever do that? Like in Boston or New York, like people are like clamoring for it to get back up to that point after a winter. But I think, and I find myself now behaving similarly, but I think with the weather just comes a lot of, perks, and the weather does change drastically from morning to evening. So that was a surprise. Like it can be 75 and sunny every day, but if it's 50 at night and you're chilly, you got to put on an extra layer. So those are some of the experiences I had coming to LA.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I act like I'm from LA. I'm from Texas, but I've been here 2 decades.
Yeah.
You blink and your life happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to start to land the plane here. This is bonus material now. You can go deep or you can go surface, but there's a love story in the background. I'm forever a cheerleader for this place. I love my sociology professor in college said, the number one predictor of who people end up with, it's not religion, it's not ethnicity, it's proximity. Now I'm old, I'm from the last century, so maybe it's changed in a digital age, but one of the things I love about Anderson is you come here and you can get proximate.
Yeah.
You get proximate. So you want to give them the thumbnail because you have a personal relationship that has happened in your life because you're here.
Yes. Can I just jump back to the prior question real quick, actually? Because I think this is an answer that actually is beneficial to people considering Anderson.
Please. I love it.
One thing I didn't realize about LA that I described in some of my story is how many people gravitate towards Los Angeles from the different business programs. I'll be at a social event, and again, all these different programs, you'll have people from Kellogg there. You'll have people from Wharton. You'll have people there from, the University of Texas. Like, I did not realize how much of a gravitational force LA was for the Texas, for the tech ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem, creativity ecosystem. I always kind of just thought of like sports and entertainment, but there are so many different thriving verticals and ecosystems here. And that has been a tremendous blessing. Even throughout California, there's like tech weeks in like Glendale, California, tech weeks in, of course, San Francisco. And so those were things that just caught me off guard. But yeah, coming back to your question, it was great going into my second year. I was still on the sports path, and I met another student, and we were doing an unpaid internship digitally because of COVID. And soon enough, we ended up realizing, we're in the same clubs. We're in the marketing association. We're in the sports business association. And we kind of naturally built a relationship over time. We actually had set up a outing between the 3 Anderson students that were doing the internship. And the third person had flaked last minute. That's the LA culture. But it worked out where that kind of became an impromptu date. And over time, I started networking with her friends who were also, of course, Anderson Fembas. She started networking with my friends. But it's been a really, it's been a great situation. And she even helped me the day I launched my MVP. Like, she was there with me, standing at the tent, like we did rotations. Like, I made sure she got to hang with her friends and stuff, but like making sure people knew about GradPad. And like, when you meet another MBA, and a lot of people talk about dating when they consider the MBA program, there's a lot of great opportunity for singles. So definitely, like, if that's something you're considering, like, people are transitioning and you're seeing people in all different walks of life or all different areas of their life. You're seeing them professionally, socially, you're seeing them, going through stressful moments, going through moments of greatness. And so you really get like a full body picture of someone. And they're also typically very ambitious. And so, to this day, I'll pick her brain all the time on, hey, what do you think about this in terms of a business idea? Like, she's doing marketing and sales. I'll always lean on her for a sales opinion and approach. And I find that, like, intellectually and socially and, just holistically, it's been a great fit. So shout out Anderson for that as well.
Well, I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to put any pressure on anything, but all blessings on the evolution of your relationship. And
thank you.
It's cool to me. I don't get to meet everyone. I have a very strong team, and we all do a lot of recruiting. But I actually met your special person during the recruiting phase.
Yeah.
So whenever I found out you all were an item, I love stories like
funny story. She actually told me you were the probably the most influential part of her coming to Anderson.
Oh.
And her story was like, she wasn't sure about getting an MBA. She didn't apply anywhere else. And then you kind of highlighted the value of the part-time program. And that's what really drew her in. And she, she was able to get in, and she kind of, without having the greatest GMAT score, she used, she took additional courses and found other ways to navigate to make herself a stronger applicant. So there you go. That's another tie-in.
I have forgotten that part of the story. Okay, good. Well, that's, we're of the people, by the people, for the people. This is, we're a state school. We're here to provide ladders of access to people. And one of the biggest challenges we have is, 9 out of 10 people who applied to UCLA for undergrad were unable to be admitted. They had 175,000 applications for UCLA undergrad last year. And sometimes half our job is just encouraging people to just try. That, look, we want you here. If you're young, if you've been working, if you have good work habits, if you have something you'd like to achieve that you don't know how to achieve on your own, give us a shot. So a lot of our counseling is just encouraging. So it sounds like, and then if you need to fill a class or something, close a skill gap, that's all possible. Right? An MBA is a very different. It's not like medicine where you have to have biology, physics, and chemistry. You need a good, solid education. You need great work habits, and you need kind of a hunger for the shades of gray that business is. Because business, there's never one way to solve a business problem, but there are definitely better ways, and that's what an MBA is designed to train your thinking to be respectful of time and resources, to find efficient and effective pathways through ambiguity, which is the world we live in now. So, I love it. So, and I love stories. So back to my sociology professor, right? If you want to catch a fish, go where the fish are. I have a professional wife. We have a kind of a dual career, and it's crazy. Our schedule is bizarre, but we're raising 2 children. She's the entrepreneur. I'm the steady Eddie with the insurance. But I got an MBA because I wanted to be, this is serious. Like, I had such a low resolution MBA. I'm like, I just wanted to be employable so that a nice woman would choose me and not dump me.
Wow.
I mean, my dad's a preacher, my mom's a teacher. I didn't know why I wanted an MBA. I had a history degree from Texas A&M, and the world was not beating a path to my door. So I was like, okay, MBA, teach me how to make a living. And like, don't aim low when you come here. That was a very low aim, except it's not a low aim because the center of my life is my family. I am so fulfilled. I don't want to trade lives with anybody. I love it that I get to be a husband, get to be a father, and I get to do something cool like participate in people's future creating. Like, what a neat way to spend the living, right? So don't aim low when you come here. Aim high. And get hungry like this gentleman. So, okay. You have 3 asks.
Yes.
Let's talk about those.
Okay. A small, medium, and a large ask. So the small ask, check out our website, gradpad.online. If you scroll to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see a section where you can join our community. You just put your name, email, click the I'm in button, and you've joined our community in terms of our newsletters and updates. The medium ask is for introductions to any angel investors that have a background in EdTech, education, SaaS, or community building. And the large ask is for introductions to alumni networks that can use support with their disengaged ecosystem.
All right. So we'll put those links in the bottom in the show notes. Rondale, thank you for not just being a guest. Drive time number 99. We're about to get to 100. Not just being a guest, but also just, being an example of what a person can do. Like, what I respect about you is there's meet expectation and exceed expectation. And in the year and a half I've gotten a chance to know you, I always see you aiming high and like respectfully, responsibly building. And, I want everybody who comes to UCLA to have their expectations met, of course, but I'm really interested that people have their expectations exceeded. And you're going for it professionally, you're going for it personally, how you're living your life, like you self-described, first generation college. But even if you're 6th generation college, like, to make these things really sing, you got to pull the value towards you. And I really am thrilled to get to share your story, because I think your example can inspire others to, okay, I'm admitted to Anderson. That's awesome. I'm in Anderson. That's amazing. I'm a little lost. That's okay. The way to get through it is to pick something to aim at, and then talk to lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
And stub your toe and trip and fall and get back up, but keep pulling things toward you.
Exactly.
So what I hope we are today, for those of you who are strivers, listen and learn and mimic. For those of you who are arrivers, hey, maybe you want to invest. And, and for everybody, I hope that this little moment, here we are in April of 2024, I hope that this is a digital time capsule that you'll get to look back on 5 and 10 years from now and be like, I remember when I was just a little guppy before you became a big shark, or whatever it's going to be, whatever the fish metaphor is. But, I hope that this little moment, continues to be a stair step in your upward journey. And I'm grateful to have gotten to partner with you, to participate with the evolution of an entrepreneurial dream that I know made Palooza better. And I hope, we can partner going forward. And I hope your story, really inspires others.
Yeah, I just would highlight the teaming culture that's emphasized at Anderson. From day one in the full-time program, you're assigned a section of about 80 students from different backgrounds, walks of life, different industry expertise, et cetera. And then they actually use like an algorithm to team people into small learning teams of about 5 to 6. And so then you've got an intentional kind of eclectic mix of different talents and thoughts. Like someone in my learning team was a scientist. I had the CPA, someone had a finance background. We had an international student. And you really learn to work together through that process. I think that lasts the first 2 quarters, so roughly 6 months of time here. BCP, the program I mentioned, you're literally working with that team of, 4 to 6 students that entire time. There's a lot of teamwork that goes into that, a lot of ironing, sharpening iron. And so there's really that culture of leaders, helping other leaders or sharpening other leaders. And then if you take a leadership position in a club, like the social director role, that meant I was, working alongside the president, the vice president, the, head of international affairs. And so you really get to continually find yourself in circles of people that either think different or have a different background, and it gives you a different perspective. I'll lastly add that 2 of the biggest kind of benefits of coming to a UCLA, one is like the Bruin to Bruin connection. I'll, get warm intro to a Bruin who might have graduated 10 years ago. And if they need to tell me, about how to balance or make my pitch deck better, they'll call me up and give me 15 minutes of their time, whether they're in a case for me, like earlier this week, they were actually driving from an airport. And so they were rushed, but they were like, this is what you need to do. And there's that almost like a sense of like blind loyalty or community that I really value. And I think those are things that will stay with me forever. I'll lastly note, going off of Dylan's point about being rooted here in UCLA, there are so many institutional and social and just like structural benefits that come from just saying to someone anywhere in LA that you're a UCLA student. Like it wasn't the same feeling in Boston. If I said I'm a UMass student, you could say you're from XYZ school, there could be prestige. But when you say you're a UCLA student to someone in LA, they automatically feel as though they can relate to you, whether it's for sports, whether it's for entertainment, or just the dynamic of the schools. And then relative to other MBA programs, I've also found that students at the more prestigious schools still have the same level of respect for UCLA, whereas they might not for a lesser program. And so you have this blend of being relatable, but like people knowing you're a hardworking, intelligent, community-oriented person. And so I'll leave you with that as you make your decisions navigating the MBA process for those that applies to.
All right. Thank you, team, for turning the camera back on. I can't say it any better than that. I steal this from our executive MBA that your study group is like a board. It's like a personal board of advisors. And I love that, right? Every CEO has a board. And if you relate to those 4 or 5 people on your study group as, wow, this is what I'm here for. Is the scientist learns from the CPA learns from the marketing person learns from the international student, right? You'll hear faculty say again and again, the learning is directional and lateral, and you'll learn just as much from your study mates, your study group, as you do from the actual faculty in the front of the room as you wrestle with this journey. I love how you said that, and wanted to put a little more light on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Rondale Davis. Okay. Either be like him or invest in him, one of the two. You're not going to go wrong. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.